All right, today we're going to talk about a business cost that, honestly, a lot of companies miss. It's this quiet thing that just eats away at your resources, your morale, and even your team's momentum. We're diving into what's called the hidden deficit of early employee attrition.
So let me ask you this, right off the bat. What's the real cost when a new hire decides to leave, after just a few months? It sounds like a simple question, doesn't it? But trust me, the answer, it's way more complicated and honestly, way more expensive than most people think.
Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to start where everyone else does, with the obvious stuff. Think of it like the tip of an iceberg, right? This is the part you can see, the cost you can actually calculate and stick on a spreadsheet. But, well, we all know how icebergs work. The real threat is what's lurking just under the water.
So, when that new person quits, the first place you feel it is right in the company wallet. It's immediate. These are all the costs you can easily write down. The numbers that pop up in the quarterly report and make the finance team cringe. Yeah, they hurt, no doubt about it. But in a way, they're also kind of predictable.
And I bet these costs sound super familiar. You've got your recruitment fees, right? The hit to productivity when that desk was empty. All the time and energy your team poured into onboarding and training. And then, of course, all the paperwork to process them in and out. These are the standard, easy-to-measure costs. But here's the kicker. They are a tiny, tiny fraction of the actual damage.
Okay, and this is where we really need to change how we're looking at this. It's summed up perfectly in this one line. Early attrition doesn't just lose talent. This is the moment we pivot. We're moving past the simple dollar signs and into something, well, much deeper and a whole lot more destructive.
Because look, losing a talented person, that's just where the problem starts. When one person leaves, it sets off this ripple effect, and it spreads damage you can't even see throughout the whole company. This is where the true cost really starts to come into focus.
It's not just about an empty seat. It's about losing trust. Just think about it for a second. The team, they put in the time, the energy to welcome and train a new colleague. Maybe your customers were just starting to build a rapport with them, and then poof, they're gone. All that investment, it's just gone. And that loss of trust, that's something that really, really sticks around.
So here's the big difference, right? Losing a person is an operational headache. You can find someone else, fill the role. The impact is pretty immediate, and it's mostly about that one job. But losing trust? Whoa, that's a whole different ballgame. That's a cultural problem, a reputational one. It hits the whole team, the whole company. And the damage? It might not show up right away, but it's there, slowly chipping away at the foundation of everything.
All right, this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, and honestly, it's the most important one. We're talking about the truly unseen cost. We've moved from the money to the culture, and now we're going even deeper into the kind of damage that is just impossible to put a number on. This is the stuff that will never, ever show up on a spreadsheet. The main idea is right there. That cost never shows on spreadsheets. The biggest hit you take from someone leaving early is completely invisible to all the usual ways we measure business. It doesn't exist in a financial report. Where does it live? It lives in the quiet conversations in the hallway, in the private Slack channels. It lives in the little seeds of doubt planted in the minds of your other employees, and even your customers.
So what are these invisible costs exactly? Well, let's break it down. First, you've got team morale. It just plummets. That empty desk starts to feel like a symbol of instability. Then there's the hit to project momentum. Everything grinds to a halt while the team has to stop, regroup, and figure out how to cover the gap. And think bigger picture. What about the damage to your employer brand? Your reputation out there as a good place to work takes a serious knock. And finally, you create chaos for your customers. They're stuck dealing with a revolving door of people, and that makes them nervous.
So, how do you put a price tag on any of that? The simple answer is you can't. And that is the whole point. Just because you can't stick a dollar sign next to lost morale doesn't mean it costs you nothing. In fact, this invisible deficit, this is often the biggest cost of them all. It can dwarf all those recruitment fees we talked about at the beginning.
And that leaves us with one last really important question you should be asking yourself. If the biggest, most damaging costs to your business are completely invisible, if they don't show up on any report you're looking at, then what are you really measuring? And maybe more importantly, what are you missing?